going on, everybody? Today is the day that we talk about cross-country racing racing tips. Before we hop into everything, please do me a favor and hit the like button. Oh my gosh, dude, there's actually bugs here. And subscribe if you're new here. These videos kind of take a lot of prep, and so it would really mean a lot if you guys could hit that like button. It's free. It helps out more than you think. So we're gonna be talking about racing, whether it be, 5K. I know some girls have 2-mile races. And even if you have a longer distance like 8K or 10K, these tips will definitely help you guys. So I can give you all the advice in the world on racing, but truly there is no substitute for good training. That is the legitimate best preparation you can possibly have for a race. And so I made a cross-country training tips video. If you guys didn't see it, it'll be in the description and also probably somewhere on the screen. Before we even talk about racing, make sure you're doing well in training. Make sure you're working hard every day in order to work towards that race, because that's what it's all for. That's what it's all about. In this video, we're gonna be talking about pre-race. We're gonna be talking about the actual race, and we're gonna be talking about post-race. The 3 elements to a perfect meet. Okay, so let's get into the first thing, pre-race tips. All right, so first, pre-race. Oh, actually, come closer, come closer. Okay, that's better. So, pre-race, the day before the meet, we're gonna talk about eating. Now, it's really important to fuel your body the day before meet. You can't just cram everything in a few hours before you race. It's important to kind of dedicate that entire day before your big meet to prepping for the race. That may be eating, drinking, and just making sure you're hydrated and fueled up the day prior to the meet. You need to be drinking a lot of water, and preferably it's out of your brand new Neptune bottle, available on Amazon. The link is in the description. Pick you guys up a Neptune. 36 ounces are really nice for cross-country runners. You just sip on this all day. It really preps you for a race, so really can't go wrong with these bad boys. And also something that's really important that sometimes gets overlooked is eating food that you eat all the time the day before meet. I know some people that the day before meet, they will have something totally new, something that's just foreign to their body. Even if it's healthy, it may not be a good choice. Typically before a race, I started this like 2 or 3 years ago, I'll have turkey spaghetti before every single race. Like the night before, that will be my dinner. And what happens is your body just gets used to it. You're not throwing curveballs at your body the night before a race. If you have meets in the morning, like I typically did, your body will kind of be prepared for that. So just like I said, have consistency with your eating along with your training. Have consistency with your eating, and that way your body isn't unprepared for some random food that it's never had before. So yeah, I like turkey spaghetti. You guys might like something different for a dinner before a race. I just like it because it's abundant in carbs. Turkey's a really lean protein. So it's just something that I could feel good about going to bed and wake up feeling good. Yeah, that's the night before a race, eating wise. Also the night before a race, or just the day before a race, make sure you're feeling good. Stretch a little bit. Typically, I wouldn't run anything crazy the day before a race. If I had mileage and it wasn't a serious race, I would just went and did an easy run, maybe a few strides to get my body ready for the next day. But yeah, you don't want to do anything crazy. With all those things said, we can hop into the next morning of the race. Let's go. Okay, so pre-race. In the morning, what are you gonna do before your big meet? Typically, we would have bus rides and stuff, so we would have to wake up pretty early. The general rule of thumb, and this may be a surprise to some people, you wanna eat food about 4 hours before your big race. Anything significant, you wanna have about 4 hours before your race, because that's the amount of time it takes to digest a significant piece of food. Something I would typically have the mornings before races is what I always have for breakfast. I would include, I have these like oatmeal squares that I like having for breakfast sometimes, or including in my breakfast. And so I would have them the day of the meet. I never recommend changing something up the day of the meet. You don't want a stomach ache while you're stepping on the line, because that's really just gonna mess with you mentally, and your stomach hurts, you're not gonna be able to run at your best. It really doesn't even matter what you eat as long as it's something that you're used to. And hopefully you're not used to eating like Skittles for breakfast. I don't know. Be drinking on water. Don't go crazy with about an hour to go, because you don't want to have to pee before a race. Definitely drink water before a race, and maybe sip on some Gatorade or something. I like doing that at least, just to get some electrolytes in my body. So, warm up. How do you warm up for a race? Generally, running for about 10 minutes, you're just going for a light jog for about 10 to 15 minutes is a great way to warm up the body. And if you guys like doing, agilities or drills to warm up after that, then that's totally fine too. Maybe some light stretching. And just really, the more you move, the better. And you just want to step on the line with confidence that you're not going to be rusty, I guess. I don't know what word I'm looking for. So once you've done a proper warm up and you're on the line, most people get to do strides. I would recommend doing strides just to kind of shock your body and, kind of kick things off. You don't want to wake up per se. You want to have your muscles kind of engaged before the race starts, so that when it does start, you're kind of prepared, able to race. Okay, with those things said, let's get into the actual race. So what is the best cross-country racing strategy? Well, first, let's kind of break it down. All of us are kind of guilty of being on that line, having a lot of energy built up. There's so much anxiety, there's so much, God, Lee, I hate bugs, dude. What, it's on me? You know, kind of being anxious and ready to get the race started. And when that happens and you hear the gun go off, everyone just sprints like a crazy madman. It's just an ambush. It's like what are those called, with a herd of, like, for such a long race. 5K is a really long time, believe it or not. You know, for the fastest people in high school, it's typically about 15 minutes. That's a really long time to make moves. You don't have to win the race in the first 400 meters, and you're not gonna win the race in the first 400 meters. The first tip I wanna give you guys for racing is do not participate in that crazy pack of sprinters. Go ahead and just go out with a good stride. I mean, you're definitely gonna be running faster than your average race pace anyways, so you don't have to hit a 30-second 200 the first portion of the race, and you definitely don't have to continue doing that for anything past 400. I mean, you're gonna look cool at first if you're in that front pack because everyone's looking, everyone's watching. It's better to look cool at the end, so go ahead and save yourself for the rest of the race, because I'm gonna break it down scientifically. What happens whenever you go ahead and sprint the first 400 to mile? Are there any consequences to it? Like what, I wanna get ahead, I wanna get in front. No, here's what happens. You don't wanna cross that anaerobic threshold too early in the race. You wanna rely on your aerobic system for as long as possible, because once you cross into that anaerobic system, that's when you start getting lactic in your legs, you start hurting really bad, and it's just really uncomfortable. And this kind of goes back with training, you know, developing your aerobic system. When you have it more developed, you're naturally gonna be able to utilize it for longer in a race. So make sure your training's good, but you can also kind of incorporate a good racing strategy in order to sustain your aerobic system longer in a race. Whenever you sprint, whenever you go past a certain threshold, you're gonna start using a different system, your anaerobic system. And anaerobic just means without oxygen. Basically, the anaerobic threshold is that line that can't be sustained for a long time because you're not using oxygen. And so when you're not bringing anything to your muscles, that's why you're feeling so tired and dead at the end of a cross-country race, and you feel like you're just so desperate. And that's because you're using your anaerobic process to run and not your aerobic process. I got a definition for you. The anaerobic, which means, again, without oxygen, threshold is often defined as the level of exercise intensity at which lactic acid accumulates in the bloodstream faster than it can be cleared away. Lactic acid is building up in your legs. That's what pain is, by the way. Whenever you're running, lactic is the pain. So whenever you're in that anaerobic threshold, you're basically experiencing pain, and that's as simple as it gets. A lot of races have hills in cross country, and there's kind of a huge debate about whether you should sprint up a hill, whether you should jog up a hill and then sprint down, but this kind of goes hand in hand with the anaerobic and aerobic processes. Whenever you start sprinting, period, whether it be up a hill, you're gonna be crossing over that dangerous line into that anaerobic threshold, which is a danger zone in a cross-country race, especially in the first 2 miles. You do not wanna be in that place. You want other people to be getting into that area, but you wanna be in your safe zone, your aerobic system. So don't sprint up a hill. Generally, it's better to just maintain your pace up a hill. You'll probably slow down a little bit. You know, the runners that decide to go like Usain Bolt up hills will definitely gravitate back towards you throughout the race, just believe. And if it's towards the end of the race, less than 400 meters to go, you can go for it. But anywhere before like 2 miles, you just don't wanna risk it. So take hills as they are, don't worry about them, just kind of run. So here's the deal, I'm gonna give you guys a really good analogy, I think, that is gonna help visualize what I'm trying to say, because it's kind of confusing, it's like big words. Try to think of a threshold as a giant piece of mud during a race. So once your body has to start relying on the anaerobic system, you have a huge streak of mud for the remainder of a race. For most of the race, you're feeling great, running hard and fast and pushing the pace. But all of a sudden you have to enter the mud pit and your effort increases tenfold. And all the other runners are flying by you because they haven't hit their mud pit yet. What if you could push that mud pit farther and farther away so you could barely touch the beginning of it as you were crossing the finish line? So that's why you have to race smart and train accordingly to develop those thresholds for race day. So that was a lot to take in, but I'm just gonna kind of summarize everything, give you guys a really general racing tip. So start conservatively, especially in a race as long as a 5K. Pick off runners throughout that went too fast at the beginning and just stay focused. Stick onto the shoulder of a runner that you want to beat or pace off of before you make a move, and never let them form a gap, because once that gap forms, you're really never coming back from that. So stay on their shoulder no matter what, and if you're feeling better than them, just go ahead and start running. just run comfortably the first mile and a half at least, so that going into the final mile, you're feeling strong and you're feeling like you can put in a really good effort. No one ever ran their personal best feeling dead at the halfway mark, and that's just the truth. So do not run like a madman that first half. You want to be more conservative that first half than anything. Okay, post-race, what are we doing? So take a breather, cheer on your teammates, celebrate, grab some water, and something to drink. Within 10 to 20 minutes after finishing though, you want to cool down your body. You really have to take care of the engine you rely on, so never neglect a cool down, because that's just as important as the warm-up, just as important as the race in the long-term scheme of things. Go jog for about 10 minutes, kind of just cool down your muscles, stretch a little bit, and again, just keep drinking water out of your Neptune. Just make sure you're not calling it a day with a bunch of lactic acid in your bloodstream and muscles. That's a good way to get injured. For no reason really. 10-minute jog afterwards, pretty fun with your teammates, kind of talk about the race a little bit and just reflect on what happened, how you can do better next time. And yeah, post-race is really important. Okay, let's do the outro. Okay guys, I hope those tips helped a little bit. Those are just like personal tips. I'm no coach. I probably should have said this at the beginning. Just take my advice with a grain of salt. I don't want to be that guy that gets blamed if you went out really slow in a race and then ended up just not doing it good at all. It's just what works for me and works for a lot of people. Most of the stuff, it's research done and I'm just kind of being the messenger. So like I said, I'm no coach, I'm just the boy. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Kind of use this as a video to come look back on before each of your races and just kind of refresh your memory. These tips are pretty general and pretty rule of thumb, but I know I didn't know them throughout high school, and I didn't really know what a good racing strategy was. I always thought just like, go hard, dude, go as hard as you can, and that's not always, while yeah, that's cool, and while it's like noble and you're gonna be like, dang, that guy always tries his best, that's not always the best strategy to winning a race, if that's what you're interested in, which I know I am. What are your biggest racing tips? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.